me a moment, y'all. I got three sites to post to now for stuff. Let's get that one and that one. And unfortunately for this one, not too much anymore. That'll probably be the only time you will see me on Twitter from now on, unfortunately, to y'all. And I just want to preface this again because I think I did come across as being like, I'm leaving Twitter and it doesn't matter. It really did matter to me. That's probably why I stuck it out for as long as I did, because a lot of the people that I followed on Twitter, I didn't want to lose those connections. And now we have Spoutable, which I'm about to talk to y'all about in a moment here. But I didn't want the people who are still on Twitter that didn't pre register, that don't feel like moving over to a new social media app because you're not sure, to think, oh, you're looking down your nose at us. What about the years of friendship and talking and back and forth? I get it. New stuff bothers me, but there was no way I could stay on Twitter. Seriously, I've even not given up my account. I found myself happier when I'm not on there, seeing the toxic back and forth. So while I was missing my social media, daily dose of social media, I'm glad that I could get away from Twitter. I will keep my account like I did with my Facebook account, but I feel like I need to post less and less on that toxic site. And now, with the launch of Spoutable, which Christopher Boozy said he was going to do, and he delivered, we now have our site all set up. Now, mind you, it's not 100% perfect yet. I don't think there's any way for it to be 100% perfect, but it has an edit button. A lot of people from Twitter have already found their way on there. They were following me on Twitter. They're following me here. The interface is a little bit different online than it is through the OBS studio, so it's a bit harder for me to navigate it the way I do on the computer, but it's fine. As you can see, people are able to post their tweets. It's all whale terminologies, which my son has been loving. You know, you got all these different things. I've got a ton of notifications and people messaging me. I don't want to put people's private messages up, but it is a very fun site so far. And like my post here, I was able to tweet out, well, I say tweet, but post out my Bonnet Chronicles stuff. I'm trying to scroll down. Oh, Greg's back as well. But you can see clean interface. One of the things that I loved about it is show thread. You can delete a thread if you wanted to, but you can also pin it and edit. The edit button should be down as well. So let me keep scrolling. Copy link. Well, I guess on the actual stuff. You can edit though. I was excited about the edit feature because it was one of my long-term gripes about the other place was, after over 10 years, the only way you could get an edit feature was to pay them money, and it was like, no, we bring you revenue by being on here, and you sell our algorithms and all of our information to advertisers. So it's not like you're not making money off of us being on your app, but then you want to charge us extra for things like editing. There's also a 500, no, 300 character post between posts, but you're not limited. So yeah, your first post out there is 300 characters, but you can continue to put out spouts. So it's a really cool thing. And I feel like our pods are gonna grow on this, to nerd out like my son. Welcome to the chat, respect. But I'm really excited to have a little less drama in my social media. And if I need a drama fix, I can always jump back over and look and see who's fighting who on Twitter. But honestly, I was losing complete interest as usual. And this happened to me before with Facebook. Facebook was a place I went to almost every day. All my family was still on there too. So it was a constant source of who is at each other's throats, which aunties are fighting who. And it's fun for a little bit, like watching a Springer episode, but you get bored, you know? You can't find the link to Spoutable? That's weird. If you pre-registered, all you have to do is go back to the site, enter in your email and the information you want to use, and it should let you on. If you didn't pre-register, which I was teasing Greg about earlier, he has to wait till the 6th. The 6th is going to be open for every new registered. I know he's doing that because he's already been attacked, which is sad. There was some alleged German national guy going around harassing people on both Twitter and on the site, trying to say it's a scam and everything else. I get it. People do not want, especially Black Twitter, leaving an exodus and going someplace else. They don't want us to have our own place, and they definitely don't want us to have a place that will heavy hand anybody who wants to spread hatred and bigotry, but they're just going to have to cry hard about it on their dwindling website because Spoutable is what he's saying it is so far. I get it that's not going to be able to stop 100% of the wannabe trolls and wannabe bots and people who want to cause trouble. But I feel like, unlike Musk, he cares about the site not devolving into that. And while the launch wasn't 100% smooth, it's been fun. I was on here off and on all day, like updating people, adding stuff, just interacting with familiar faces. And I think while it's going to be like any launch day for a game, touch and go, it's going to be fun for those of us who missed those early days of Twitter before we became personalities on there, which I hate saying, but it happens. After a while, you do become a Twitter personality. And I think a lot of us just missed those days where it was just simple log on, interact with our friends. Welcome home, honey.
Don't mind me. My pants, I want my shorts.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't that big of a jump from Twitter either. It's a way more streamlined. And like I said, features like the edit button, being able to use 300 characters, being able to post our artwork and everything else. The only thing that's missing for me is the ability to make my shorts, which I know will come soon. Being able to post little short videos, that'll be that we start off like that on Twitter. The ability to even post media on Twitter came later on in its inception. So while I will miss doing my little short rants, I don't think I'll have to rant as much on Spoutable as I did on Twitter. A lot of times, my Twitter Bonnet rants, which I do credit giving me the idea for the Bonnet Chronicles, came from the amount of asinine things people would say to me as a Black woman on Twitter and me clapping back. So while I will miss doing them, I don't feel I'll have to do them as much on Spoutable as I did on Twitter. So and I will still do these. I'll still do the full length version of the Bonnet Chronicles. So it'll give me more stuff to actually talk and rant about. What I like about this is guys like Musk, guys like Zuckerberg, so many people with like hubris and really anti-black, anti-Semitic, anti-native leans, anti-Muslim, anybody who isn't straight right Christian, they thought our hands were tied. They thought we couldn't have our own. And then launch this at the beginning of Black history just fills me with a sense of hope that I didn't have before. I was struggling again because it does feel like our hands are tied. We are trying to exist in their world. And I don't want to keep having those defeatist feelings. because I feel like they want us to feel that way, trapped, owed to them. We have to utilize their social media. And men like Christopher Boozy said, no, not this time. You have harassed us. You have harassed women of color, especially. We watch you allow open haters. We allowed you to bring back a man who literally has blood on his hands of so many of us because of his incompetence when he was in our presidential position. We cannot continue this disrespect of who we are as citizens and take this. And social media shouldn't be a monopoly. And right now, it felt like a monopoly between Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And it's time for these other companies to come up and start to siphon off people who are just tired of the toxic mistreatment of these tech bros. So I'm excited about Spoutable, not just for that, but because it is Black owned. And on Black History Month, I am all about amplifying and taking care of my people. But I want people to realize, especially after watching Black Panther last night, and later on in the cast, I'm going to really get in depth about how that movie made me feel, because I did a bit of a mental health vlog about it, and I still won't give too many spoilers tonight, but I do want to talk about how it felt watching it, and just with everything that's gone on this last couple of weeks, with the funeral for Tyree Nichols, with just all the indignities that all of us have faced in America. Because while I love to act like it's a Black issue, it is an American issue. The fight against bigotry, the fight against the ridiculousness, all of us are involved in this. You know, all the stuff that Florida's doing with their AP bans of African American studies, the whole idea of George Santos's nonsense, which I need people to understand something. The fact that he even made it as far as he did and was actually sworn in, the fact that his party won't rebuke everything about this man, goes to show you that they're not taking it serious because they don't have to. And as I keep saying, and I will say every Bonnet Chronicles, this is not for their base. These ridiculous character actors, the Muppets like Maori Green, the way they act, this is not for their loyal, because those people are loyal. This is for those of you who will get mad at the fact that George Santos lies about everything, but then you blame the Democrats for not doing enough to stop him. Because in your brain, it's somehow our fault that the Republicans will run any Yahoo with a made up background and credentials. I need Democrats to stop being apathetic. As much as I can't stand the fact that people are quoting Jon Stewart on Spoutable, because I have a very love-hate relationship now with his career. I appreciate some of the things he did during The Daily Show, but I realized early on that it was an act. So I lost a lot of the shine and admiration I had for him, but he did make a point about how people didn't take Donald Trump seriously. They thought, oh, he was just being silly with his bigotry and hatred. He openly mocked the disabled reporter. But people would, oh, that means he's just a clown. We'll never elect that clown. And that clown wasted 4 of our years and destroyed millions of lives with his incompetence. So anybody laughing at the idea of George Santos moving up in the ranks do not realize how unserious the Republican Party are, and how apathetic our party has been to seriously taking on the threat of these people. Because they know they're not going to bring the best and brightest. They don't have that anymore. Smart people don't indulge in bigotry and racism the way these idiots do. They know that they only can crave in base type now. They can only bring in people who don't want to overthink, who think the government should have a hand in stuff, but I need help from the government. I need a subsidy for stuff. The government should tell me what to do if I want to own a bunch of guns, but I kind of need the government to tell them Black people they can't live in my area. They want people stupid. And they know that the only way to keep people like that is to also have their representation either come across as that way or literally be that way. And it's like I keep saying, those people are loyal. They already have that cushy spot of open faced bigotry that they don't want to let go of. So I don't even try to appeal to those types. This is for the so-called blue wave, blue no matter who. I'm a true blue dem until I don't feel like doing my job types that were all over Twitter, that will probably try to make their way on the spoutable, that want to preach stuff because they want the accolades, but they're not putting in the footwork. Men like George Santos should not just upset you, it should make you, especially if he's in your district, reevaluate why people aren't turning out to vote against him. Reevaluate why you need a party member that wows you, except over the fact that we need people who will do the work. Too many of you want a stunter. And that is going to be our party's problem until we get things together. We have a lot of character actors infiltrating their ways. We see it with the squad. We see it with perhaps a problematic lieutenant governor. Now, I don't know much about Maryland politics at all. I'm not in that state. I'm not trying to police other people's politics. And when Democrats win, I tend to cheer them on. But if a Democrat has ties to a really notorious far-right group, I'm going to be concerned. And until this lieutenant governor, which I'm not going to throw her name out there until it's verified, but several news sources have tied her to it, comes out and clearly says, I am not tied to them. I am calling upon Democrats to start vetting people. Yeah, it's nice to get more people of color in our government. It's nice to have representation, but we need to be mindful that not all, the perfect apt thing. Not all skin folk are our kinfolk, or not all kinfolk are our skin folk. The same thing. A person can look just like you and not be like you. We're not all built the same. We're not all raised the same. I was reading an article earlier about this weird thing, this Yale girl. She's the president of Yale. And I get it. Having to navigate those spaces as a black child is hard enough. And I'm sure Homegirl went through all the motions of her own personal struggle with her blackness. But when I seen the article, I thought for sure it was a white student that came up with it. And no, it's a black girl, which made my heart sink a bit. She decided that white Yale college goers can help share black joy by letting black students cut in line and other really stupid pandering things that takes away what Black History Month is supposed to represent at higher education like that. If I'm a black Yale student, I'm happy that I was able to get into one of the hardest Ivy League schools in our country to get into, especially for black, indigenous, anybody who isn't a straight white Christian male with money. And I don't want people pointing out my blackness because they want to help me celebrate joy. That made me pause. It made me tense. And it's some of the stupid shit that we see every February that I want to call out tonight. Because there are going to be people that go, Tim, well, how can we celebrate Black History Month with you? You can actually learn Black history, especially since the other side are trying their damnedest to stop us from learning it or experiencing it because they fear a place that actually moves towards equality and equity. They don't want it because they feel like, well, we already are pretty mediocre and we're pretty lazy, but we tell them that. And if they see their potential and their worth, we're screwed. They don't want an equal society because they know they can't carry the load. They can't bear the burden. They can't shoulder the weight of it. So I beg you, if instead of asking a black person what you can do for Black History Month, take some initiative, read, study, and stop treating us like we're zoo animals. One of the viral tweets that I had to bring up that place again, hopefully for what will start to be the last time, was me liking certain white people's behavior towards us, like Richard Attenborough. I loved his documentary series as a kid, but I always thought it was funny the way he was like, "Look at that lion on the Serengeti," and you know his soft voice describing the way the animals would move around their native habitat. And that's fine if you want to watch somebody do that for lions. But when they do that to me as a human being, it makes me feel like I am being Attenborough, as I used him as a verb, and I still do. Liz Warren did that to us by pushing into our spaces. It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us clear that you see us as a different species, as barely human when you do that. And it's not like I want you going, "Well, I don't see color," because that drives me nuts too. I don't want you not seeing my color, man. There's nothing wrong with my color. I love my color. I love your color. I think humans are amazingly hued. But our problem is we base this whole society off of, well, this color has to be bad because that's how our mindset is, and this color has to be good because of this is how our mindset is, and we can't have any in between, and people can't show us who they really are because it's better for us to just prejudge a book by its cover. And I say this as an author who has a pretty nice covered book. Get to know the inside first before you make the judgment. But people don't want to do that because we are, at heart, a lazy, superficial species. And that is something we have to work on ourselves. And in the beginning of Black History Month, it is imperative as the other side continues their culture war, continues to attack everything Black, because that is the root of racism. Bigotry is a bad thing in itself, and there is so much we can unpack with Black bigotry, but there is a different insidiousness of racism that people keep trying to get away from or muddle or distract from the topic that we have to stop allowing. Because the root of racism is anti-Blackness. And during Black History Month, especially watching what's going on in Florida, watching Abbott realize that his bestie can get away with it and seeing what he can do next. Watching the constant attacks on who we are as a people, it can erode our morality, and I don't want that to happen. We are a resilient bunch of people. The people we surround ourselves with are resilient as well. But nobody is immune to being tired and worn down from the constant threat of just existing. Watching people pulled out of cars at so-called routine traffic stops and losing their lives. Watching babies gunned down for looking threatening. Watching women who were just babysitting their nephews gunned down in their home. It gets to be too much. And what I want people to do in this Black History Month is not just tweet or spout or talk about what you're going to do. Do stuff to be better. Immerse yourself in cultures that you might not understand, but you should learn about because they're around you. And don't treat people like they're a species you're studying. There are plenty of ways to learn about people's culture without being offensive. But too many of you don't want to do it. Or too many of you want to loudly do it for a pat on the head. And that is abrasive now, too. It might have been cutesy years ago where we really thought you were making a conscious effort, but that's just your way. But after years of brutality and a system that really doesn't care if we die, no, we don't have the energy for those of you who are stunting for a pat on the head. If you are in this for the right reason, we'll know. If you're in it for the wrong reason, we'll know and we'll call it out. I shouldn't have to hear a list about all the things you do for my people, because that was something a lot of white women were pulling the last few years. Giving me your resume of things you've done for the community and beyond this. Like, if you have to tell me a list of your accolades, you ain't got no real accolades there. I don't have to praise you because you tell me stuff online. If I see your work, I will know you're doing the work and I will give you the props if that's what you're even in there for. Because point blank, most people who are fighting for equality don't do it for the props. You want props? Do some other work. Be a talent person. But if you're in for civil rights because you want accolades, you're in the wrong field. Because we have some serious work that has to be done against a serious threat that wants to erase us or push us back to days where we were in worse situations. And it is troublesome to me the amount of people who like to stunt by putting BLM in their profile, but knowing that black voices irritate you. I told Greg earlier I was watching a TikTok, and I don't have a TikTok, so I get to watch like compilations online and stuff. And I came across this article that showed this house that already looked familiar, so I was freaking out about it because I lived in North Carolina for a few years. And being with my godparents for a bit, I hate to use the word affluent, but that is the kind of lifestyle they had. Big houses, big money. My godparents and people around them, they liked the high life. So when they said I recognized the house, I was shocked because I wasn't sure at first. And yeah, it was a house that I had not only been in, but the people were really nice. But they're a black family in a neighborhood where people try to treat them like they don't belong. And apparently, the owners of the house were on vacation and asked their neighbor, who also happens to be black, to have their kids come over and water the plants. And the neighborhood white lady decided to stick her nose into the situation. And it was just a reminder of me that no matter what we do, no matter how much we make, no matter how nice our houses are, there will always be that person that thinks we don't belong in our own spaces. And if we create our own spaces, historically speaking, they'll burn it down and then tell us we rioted. It is exhausting. And I'm tired of people trying to exhaust our spirit. One of the things Greg and I watched last night was the Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever. And like I said, I'm going to try very hard not to give heavy spoilers because I know some of you haven't watched it yet. I know some of you are getting ready to watch it. The movie was cathartic. For those of us who lost family members, friends over the last 4 years, even, especially the last 2 years with the virus that Twitter and, not Twitter, YouTube and stuff don't like us naming out loud, but it was heavy. Last year alone, losing Anne, and then this year losing Lynn, it was, last year I lost both of them. It's just been so muddled the last few years with losing friends, losing family, and not feeling that outlet to channel it. And then with Chadwick Boseman's loss, I felt like this movie was the perfect way to not only say goodbye to him, but to show how hurt everybody who interacted with him showed that his presence not being there was felt. And they didn't push that you can just move on. This movie wasn't about hope throughout sadness. This was raw, real grief. This was telling black women that, yes, you are a resilient sister girl. You are strong, sister girl. It is okay to not be okay. And I think so many of us need to hear that because for the longest time we have had to shoulder burdens. We have had to bury family. We have had to bury our feelings and be strong and smile and graceful in the face of disrespect of who we are. People say they envy our strength and resilience, but we don't have a choice in the matter, man. The world never gave us that choice. We live life in extreme hardcore mode. So I never took it as a compliment when people say, oh, Tin, you're strong. No, I'm not. I'm black. There's a difference. The strength you think you're seeing is just me making sure you don't get too close enough to hurt me. And I know a lot of women that are like that. Black indigenous, Jewish, native, so many of us who have to protect ourselves from fuckery. It's not strength, it's defense. And we haven't been okay for years as our families are constantly threatened by outside and internal forces. If our family dared to immigrate here, having people threatening ICE on us. If our family's from here but doesn't look the part, having people threaten the cops on us. The last few years has opened a lot of women of color's eyes that, oh, you're good as long as they need you, but they'll turn their back on you the moment you're not useful to them. It was really eye-opening for my Asian family when COVID hit. How many people turned on them yet again? They're not surprised by the prejudice because a lot of people in this country can't tell a Chinese person from a Filipino person from a Japanese person. They just put you all together at once. A lot of people don't know that Southeast Asian people come in all different faiths and beliefs. They can't tell a Sikh from a Muslim person. They don't care because to a bigot, we all look alike. And a lot of yous got a big time wake up call here in the good old US of A where a dumb bigot can go in with a gun and destroy lives. And I don't say this to be like, take that. But exactly, Beans. A lot of people don't know the difference. And they make disparaging comments and remarks. And especially in the last 10 years, the rampant wave of both anti-Semitism, which even in our community was becoming a little bit too acceptable for my liking, and anti-Muslim sentiment was growing way too much to the point where kids weren't feeling safe in their own schools and neighborhoods. Burning mosques, defacing synagogues. It has got to stop. There should be no acceptable forms of bigotry. But yet we continue on because hate is an easy button. Doesn't take much thought. You could just go on your instinct. But to have compassion and understanding and respect for even those you don't know or understand, it makes you a better person whether people like it or accept it or not. And that is what conservatives fear more than anything else. A society that no longer has to utilize such methods to get power, as they call it. Because it's not really powerful. It is an abyss that you keep feeding in and it erodes your soul. Hateful people, you can almost tell them from their appearance because of how angry they have to stay. Well, I'm angry. They have more than me. They really don't. Well, everybody victimizes them. And it's like, what are you talking about at this point? You want to hate somebody because you don't understand them. You won't try to understand them. You think you know them. And yet when it's pointed out to you that your ways aren't right and that you really should get away from it. Well, I'm the victim here. You won't let me be openly hateful. And it's like, I don't understand it at this point. I don't understand the lure or the appeal of it, but I will say we are done with it. And what I liked about this movie is it allowed us to be okay being angry. It allowed us to be okay not just accepting loss, to process grieving in our way and not just give in because of tradition and what everybody else wants. I like the aspects of both science and spirituality because they're not mutually exclusive. I know a lot of people who think that believing in science makes spirituality less than, or believing in spirituality makes you less of a believer in science. And I've always believed in the marriage between the two. That's why Shuri's character always interested me, because I wanted somebody who did that. But I did like that she had her doubts after not being able to save T'Challa, which I don't think that's a spoiler. So I just wanted to make it known. She had a crisis of faith because she couldn't save her brother. And I think that hits home for a lot of us. a lot of us have that shaken feeling in our spirituality when we lose somebody close to us, especially if we're in a position where we felt like we could have done something. Like doctors, our medical professionals over the last 4 years, I can't even imagine the mental stress they have been through dealing with ongoing death, preventable death, but ongoing death. It takes its toll. So it was nice seeing how she was real and raw about feeling helpless and questioning her beliefs in that, but not giving them up. And this is not to knock people who don't need spiritual beliefs, because I think a lot of people take that as the message too for those of us who are spiritual. And while I can't speak for other spiritual people because I wouldn't and I don't, there are some spiritual people that think, oh, atheists don't believe in stuff. I don't care. I'm very different in my spiritual beliefs are tied to earth, and a lot of my roots are involving tribalism and shamanism. So I don't get caught up in the same thing that people who believe in, like the Christian and Jewish and Muslim faith, do about people who apparently don't believe or whatnot. Why should it matter? They have comfort in the path they're walking in life. Faith is supposed to be a guide. Some of you want to use your dogma to beat everybody into obedience, and that is not going to work, because we were all given our own conscience and will. But some of you don't want to hear that. You just want to tell people how to be because it makes you feel comfortable. Because, see, it worked for me, so it'll work for them. And if they say something works for them I don't understand it, it makes me uncomfortable, and you need to just be uncomfortable then. Because this whole idea of forcing people into believing your way, I don't ascribe to that. I believe faith is a necessary guide. I think plenty of faith has done good things, but I've seen the bad they have done too. And I've seen how people have twisted faith to turn away from science and knowledge. One of the things that bothered me about the movie, one of the things that I'm getting away from in my own future tech writing, especially since it is Afro and indigenous centric for me. My roots. I can't get away from my roots, and I don't want to. But the whole idea that technology is only external and that people are just going to continuously make gadgets that they can fight with or defend with, instead of understanding that true human evolution, true human fusion, to me, would come from finding a way to fuse us with that. That's what I've done in my first novel. That's what I'm going to expand more on in the second novel. But the problem is, with movies like this, you see how we have the ideas for future tech, but it's still in the realm of utilizing tools, calling digital technology artificial, and making sure that we as humans establish that we are the real while that's fake. And it's like, I don't understand the human mind on that. Like, do you think you're better than AI? It can literally calculate and create things better than you. And then you worry that it's going to take over and destroy you. We humans are basing so much crap on fear. And I do like that this movie got away from some of that, but it enhanced so much of it. And then seeing things like two tribes literally going at war with each other really hit home for me too, because like I told people, my roots are both black and indigenous. I don't get to claim my indigenous side because my grandfather was rehomed when he was a child, taken by a Christian white family, raised to be them, and then abandoned when he fell in love with my grandmother, who happened to be a black woman. He had no ties left to his people. I don't even know where I would even begin to try to claim my heritage that way. And even being in that situation, I'm always going to be black. Unlike other multi ethnic people, I don't show features, I don't think, that would allow me to even openly try, and I wouldn't want to. But it is hard when you know your family's history to watch stuff like that, to know that that could have happened between your people, but know that it probably wouldn't. One of the things I liked about the movie was both cultures had the technology, had the resources and ability, and made great, vast cities that they just wanted to protect from those who only want to war, enslave, and harm people. But they still came to blows because it got to the point where it's like, we need to fight them before they fight us. And I get scared about that. There's a young lady that I shared on Twitter before I started to limit my posts that said it. We've had so many deaths in our communities. We've had so much heartbreak and hurt in our communities. It can be hard to know what that catalyst is going to be, but so many of us are starting to feel like it's coming. That one death that's the death too far, that one cry out, that one last mama that is going to break us all, and just, it's going to be it. They don't want us learning our history because they don't want us knowing about Nat Turner and his revolts. They don't want us knowing about the successful slave rebellions that we had. They don't want us talking about the times enough became enough and we fought back, which is why the South threatened to succeed, which is why we had to have a literal civil war. It wasn't about states' rights, it was about the rights to be human. And black people haven't enough of your nonsense. And right now, while we're not in physical shackles anymore, there's been a constant mental bondage that anybody not straight, white, Christian, and rich male in America has felt for the longest time. And it is time for us to free that mental shackle, move away from these archaic traditions, and just be allowed to be humans. I can't imagine the strides we would be making right now if we would get away from the ridiculous prejudices that hold our country back from the greatness they claim to want to be about. I want better for America. But I realize that the only way to do that is for us to be better people. For us to stop being better people for people to pat us on the head or get accolades about it. I don't care what people think about my attitude. I care about being decent because it's the right thing to do. Whether anybody sees it or not, you should be working hard to be a decent person, to be less of a bully to somebody you don't know just because you don't understand them. Work on the stereotypes you believe about people. Work on the preconceived fears that you have because, oh, I don't know that person. I say this as an introvert and as somebody who grew up in New York City, where I learned early on not to trust people right off the bat. Sometimes people will show you within the first few minutes who they are, but you should at least try to let them show you. If they make you uncomfortable, go by that. Your vibes don't have to lie, but sometimes that uncomfort comes from a place of preconceived bigotry that isn't okay. We have to start being better people. And I can't make people better. Some of you come to black people like we're your gurus or magical Negroes, that we have all the magical answers and we can make you feel better as a person. That is not our job. That exhausts us just as much as the constant stream of names that we constantly add to the hashtag list of dead bodies. And you're expecting us to pat you on the head and assuage your feelings when we're trying to survive, and that is not okay. I need people to understand that we're all hurting, but we don't have to stay in this place. But if we're going to lift each other up, exactly, respect. That pot is boiling. It's going to spill over and it's going to get messy if people don't start to understand. Turn that fire and pressure down on us because I'm speaking for myself here, I don't know how much more I can take. Tyree Nichols wasn't a breaking point for me. My breaking point was, oh gosh, Ayanna Stanley Jones. Every time I think of that little girl being on the couch with her grandmother, reminds me of the times with my grandmother. Every time I think that her murderer got away with blowing her brains out, she was asleep on the couch. They raided her house. Every time I think that he was able to lie on a witness stand and still got away with it. The only saving grace is I don't believe he's in law enforcement anymore, thank goodness. But he was still able to get away with murdering an 8-year-old child. That was my breaking point. And that was after Trayvon, but before Tamir and Tyree King. That was before Jordan Davis had the audacity to be a black child listening to music in his own car. It's before so many other lost souls to hatred and bigotry and legalized lynching. I don't have any more to break. I'm tired. I want less of these stories. I want our kids to feel like equal citizens in their country. I want to feel like an equal citizen in my country. Because whether you like it or not, black citizens belong here. This is our America too. And I know some people, we never said that. Yeah, you did. You did it to our ancestors when you brought them over in chains. You emancipated them, but you made Jim Crow laws so that we felt separate but unequal. And even after we passed the Civil Rights Act, which you made LBJ pay for by replacing him with a literal criminal like Nixon, you still reinforce with both the police, redlining, districting us to make sure we don't move into your affluent neighborhoods. And if we do, you better be an exceptional Negro so that we can showboat you. You better be on Beyonce and JC's level or we're going to Karen you out of our area. You're not fooling us. There's no such thing as separate but equal. You need to treat every American citizen and those seeking to be American citizens, because that's been really getting on my last nerve. The amount of open bigotry towards those who want to dare immigrate here has to stop as well. And if that's a bridge too far for you and you're in the black community, you got another thing coming if you try me with that. I told you, I don't have acceptable forms of bigotry, y'all. And I'm getting really sick and tired of the anti-immigration stances. One of the things I said a few Bonnet Chronicles ago, because Twitter was getting on my nerves with the whole, don't say anything bad about Diamond. You should have respect for the dead. Why? She have respect for the living. The argument she and I had before I blocked her was her nastiness about immigrants. And I'm just like, you know what? No. I'm not going to pretend like I like that hateful bigot. And I'm not going to act like our community isn't being infiltrated by these weirdos who want us to hate and be bigots. We have to stop allowing this toxin to seep through our pores. And I know it's not easy because hate is such a learned thing. And it's so normalized. It's like breathing for some people. But our community cannot afford to act like certain people. We don't get the luxury. We need to be building alliances, coalitions, and a full force against their fuckery. Because whether they like it or not, unsurprising to me though, there are a lot of white people who've had enough of it. They don't want to be on that side. White women, I don't even understand some of you who are okay with losing your rights to be human. I know you don't want that. And I know that there are people around me who are white that are just tired and exhausted of all the hate. They don't want to keep being associated with those who do that stuff. So I'm begging you, work on all the stereotypes that you used to think were okay. The jokes, the quips, I just ignore it. I'm not indulging in it, so I'll just ignore it. I'm not asking you to fight the world. I'm asking you to make those who think it's okay to say that shit around you know it's not. Make them uncomfortable with their bigotry, because shame seems to be the only thing to work against these hateful people. That lady I called out on Tuesday, oh, she was crying the victim. I didn't turn anybody on her. She was the one that decided to say that VP Harris wasn't accomplished enough. And when we turned it on her, when I fully devoted a Bonnet Chronicles calling out her ignorance, I guess it was a bridge too far for her. But if you're going to be that kind of supposed dem, you're going to get your feelings hurt. Because we're not doing this again. We have watched you tear down women. We have watched you tear down people of color. We've watched you not even acknowledge our existence for far too long. Yet you want us all under one tent. And I meant what I said. If that is your attitude, you can't sit with us. If you're still standing 23andMe Ma, Whiteboard Wilma, or any of the other stunters for power, like Yang and Woo Woo Crystal Lady, I think her name was Wilmington. I don't remember her. I remember she was like, I can see the Democratic Party in my chakras and all that other bullshit, which irks me on the spiritual level, because I believe in things like aura and chakras and stuff. But you always have these people that want to sell new age books, but they don't even really believe in the spirituality behind it. That's the vibe I got from that lady. And I'm kind of hoping that under Jamie Harrison now, we'll have a little bit less of a sideshow the next Democratic elections coming up. Because that nonsense. Oh, yeah. Tom Perez, no offense to you. You did your best, but you were not apt to handle a DNC that big. And it shows. Because we went from classy spreads of different people to a literal circus in 2018 and 19 that I never want to see repeated. And like I said, I don't want people thinking, oh, the Democratic Party should shut down people from running, because that's not our way either. But we need to be wise on who we let up on that stage in all seriousness, because that was some ridiculousness. Like, I don't even understand Marianne Williamson, or Woo Woo Wilma, as I was calling her. Yet, this is the kind of people that used to run this seriously against Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Even Pete Buttigieg had more experience. And this is what I'm worried about with our party in the future. Because there are way too many people who think stunts like that, who think it's harmless. The stuff she said back in the day wasn't harmless. She had some really anti-LGBTQ leans. And when you press her on it, she blocked you. She has some very questionable anti-vax sort of leans as well, without calling herself an anti-vaxxer. People like that are dangerous because they seem benign. And you need to constantly question why they don't seem dangerous to you. Because there shouldn't be a benign person telling you to ignore a vaccine that can help you healthily and pray your illness away. All to sell you a book and some stones. You should be wary of somebody who denies the tech and the science that we have developed to help us, because they just don't feel it. I don't like how many people are swayed by the okie doke, but I do feel hopeful that there are so many more of us that understand the assignment and that are literally showing people the way. And there are people that are following, not because they feel like they have to, but they see how much better it is to not hate people because you don't know them. They see how easier it is to raise kids confident in who they are. And they see an America that is definitely not where it should be, but can get to better places if we work together. I feel like hope has been in short supply, and I understand it. I understand exhaustion. I understand that feeling, that disconnect, but I know we can get to better places. And I want people to understand the other side, they don't care. This is war for them. They are going to kick and scream no matter what we do. So we have got too much on without them. But I want more of us ready to do that march. I want more of us resilient enough and not worn out. And I want those of you who have constantly given in the apathy to realize that gets you nowhere. Because under a fascist state, whether you understand it or not, you will not be safe. They already kill us with impunity and think they could get away with it. That's why I love that interview I watched earlier where they said body cams are not a prophylactic. Taping themselves murdering us seems to get them off too. It's torture porn at this point. They don't care. So we need to make it where the society punishes those who break the law, whether they're law enforcement or not. It has to be on us. And reform won't just come from wishes and hoping and whiteboards. We need people who are going to do the work. And we need more people to care and see us all as equal citizens. No matter what our skin color, no matter what our gender or gender identification, no matter who we are attracted to, it is on us as human beings to start setting that path to stability. Because we are not a stable society right now, but we can get there. It really does take all of us. And I agree, respect. The thing is, too many people want that cutesy thing. Oh, we can just sit and have a luncheon and discuss racism and sexism. We can do $1 billion brunches and nothing gets solved. Because while they're patting each other on the head or raising money and looking the part for Instagram or Facebook, they're not actually changing their mentality. They still won't live around black or brown people. They still view us as other. They get upset because they can't understand our culture, yet they want to culturally appropriate certain things, certain looks, certain features, certain clothing. They want us, but they don't want to be us, as it's been so succinctly said. And that has got to stop because we are not an accessory that you could put on and off. We're human beings, just like you. And I know that there are a lot of you who realize that. And it's going to take time. And I know that it feels like, especially in these last few years, we don't have a lot of time. But I refuse to give in to defeat. I am going to stay defiantly decent. And I know I'm not alone. And I agree and respect. That Pink Hat March pissed me off so badly. Not only because it happened during a time where all of us was feeling collective just shock and grief at Hillary Clinton's robbery. I'm not even going to call it a loss anymore. It's fucking robbery. But then to have them go, well, we're going to stage this protest and we all need you to come down. And I was like, I was working then. I had a job. I had a kid. I had a life. And I didn't really want to put a stupid hat on my head and act like that's going to change things. What would have changed things is if all those women who decided to show up there to that rally had gotten their girlfriends and their boyfriends and their friends to the ballot to do the right thing. So, honestly speaking, I am not anti-protest. I've been to quite a few, masked up, doing my thing for certain reasons. I'm not anti-protest when they make sense. But if you're going to protest something like an election that you could have affected, but you didn't, no, I didn't need to go down there and protest in no damn pink hat. I voted the right way. My family voted the right way. We constantly vote for our survival. That stuff is on you. And if you need to go to a BLM thing with your dogs, take pictures, you're in it for the wrong reason too. I've seen those types as well. I'm going to take a picture for Instagram. I'll look like I'm doing something. Ugh. Telling you, y'all. It's only the beginning of Black History Month, so I know there's going to be more fuckery. We're used to it. We just shrug it off and keep it moving. But I am hopeful because I've seen so many good things. The launch of Spoutable, this movie, which I'm telling you, Black women especially, please watch this movie. I feel like Ryan Coogler and every single actor and actress gave their all in this. And it was our way of seeing that it is okay to not be okay. It is okay to grieve in your own way. It is okay to hurt. And that there is no such thing as knowing what strength is. Because showing strength is smart, showing strength in physical, showing strength in just showing that you can't be strong all the time is what makes Black people so special and resilient. And I just love this movie so much for that. Oh my God, that song made me tear up too. And stay until the end, the very end scene, because it will make you cry tears of joy. It was the reveal that I think we all needed because it does feel heavy at first, the way they initially ended. And you think, wow, that was deep. And then you sit through the credits because if anybody has watched a Marvel movie, you should know by now to sit through the credits. Stay into the end, watch that end scene, and tell me you don't choke up. I'll wait because I'm telling you, I bawled like a baby, and Greg just looked over at me and smiled because it was just cathartic, and I just want everybody to experience this movie. And I know I heard it from a lot of my friends. I'm not into the MCU. It's not realistic. I get it. Superhero movies ain't for everybody, but I feel honestly speaking, outside the lighting things, which I had a problem with in the first movie, and it's the only complaint I had because there were some beautiful scenes that really didn't come across good on my TV because, and it's a 4K TV, so I don't think it was the TV. They shoot a lot of dark scenes and darkness that needed a bit more brightening, but it was a beautifully shot movie. Just amazing. And I really think that more people need to stream and see this movie. It will be very cathartic for you if you've lost somebody, cathartic for you if you come from any kind of indigenous roots or Black roots. And I just really can't highly recommend a movie more than this. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Greg went out and got dinner for us. I am just so grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for Christopher Boozy and Spoutable. I am excited, y'all, for so many things in the future. Working on the book, working on our web comic, which let me show some of Curie Bell's work really quick if I can. Let me see if I can pull this up and interact with this a bit more because I was excited about showing this earlier, you know. And I didn't do it on the other site, and I apologize for that, y'all. I know some people are like, you're not going to post on Twitter no more, and I'm going to post a lot less on Twitter. If I can be 100% honest, I want to get to the point where I don't think about that site anymore because of just how ridiculous Musk was being with his rules and letting literal Nazis and haters back on the site. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. Oh, I think I went too far. Darn it. Let me try to scroll up. Anyway, I don't want to hold people up. It's on my Spoutable. It's the artwork by Carrie Bell. It's just a panel of the webcomic she and I are working on together, and I'm excited about it. And like I said, book 2 is being worked on as well. So I'm going to be busy creatively, but I'm not giving this channel up. So I will be back on Tuesday with another Bonnet Chronicles. Till then, take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. Respect and beans. Thank you so much for sitting in. Everybody who lurked, thank you. I was waiting for that. Y'all, I will see you Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in.